The moment the lie left his lips, "I have a medical condition, I am not moving," Richard Thompson sealed his fate. It wasn't the flight attendant, Emily, who flinched. It was Olivia. Her eyes, which had held controlled anger, now settled into a cold, clinical calm. It was the look of a strategist who had just been given the final, fatal piece of evidence she needed to win. In the heavy, expectant hush of the cabin, Olivia Bennett finally moved. She didn't argue or appeal to the crew. She simply retrieved her elegant leather tote, and with a quiet, almost dismissive gesture, she pulled out her phone. The screen glowed softly, a tiny, self-contained beacon of power. Richard watched her, his expression a mixture of contempt and frustrated confusion. He was increasingly isolated, his vast ego refusing to let him admit he was cornered. Olivia's thumb slid across the screen. With a single, deft tap, she executed a command. Code Silent Wing. This was the private, high-level protocol she and SkyVenture's technical team had developed for handling extreme internal threats, a means of ensuring the safety and integrity of the airline's systems. It was a shutdown Richard Thompson wouldn't see coming. Less than 60 seconds later, the cabin network became strangely mute. Richard, frowning in irritation at the delay, glanced at his own phone to fire off a text to his assistant. He tapped the screen. The Wi-Fi icon vanished. The LTE signal indicator dimmed to 0. Connection unavailable. He jabbed the screen, swiped wildly, and checked his tablet. Nothing. His digital lifeline, the technology that had always instantly answered his demands, had turned into an unbeatable, invisible adversary. A silent, dizzying fury rose in his throat. Thompson was a man who wielded influence with a single call, who dissolved problems with one urgent message. Now, he couldn't reach his lawyer, his assistant, or his private security team. He was utterly stranded, high above the world he normally controlled. Around him, passengers discreetly watched with a growing, subtle satisfaction. Thompson's arrogant bullying had just delivered him into total technological isolation. Meanwhile, toward the galley, Emily Parker and the lead attendant, Kevin Brooks, exchanged a swift, knowing glance. Silent Wing was active. They both received the internal message on their secured devices. Maintain isolation. No technical assistance to Row 1. They understood their role was now to keep the cage shut. Thompson's veins bulged as his grip tightened on the lifeless slab of his phone. His pride, which he had never considered crushable, was beginning to feel the agonizing pressure of being rendered meaningless. He glared at Olivia, who now sat back, her gaze drifting softly to the window, completely serene. Her composure unnerved him more than any verbal attack. Richard had always believed absolute power resided in cash and status. He was now learning the terrifying lesson of passivity. He was alone, surrounded by the judgment of strangers, with no allies and no ability to call for help. Olivia tracked every minute development with surgical precision. She knew this standoff was no longer about a seat, but about an undeniable truth. Real power is not the privilege you claim, but the accountability you enforce. She inhaled softly, relaxed her posture, and waited. Time was her greatest weapon now. The longer the silence, the deeper the erosion of Richard Thompson's confidence. By the time this flight landed, he would finally understand that real power is never derived from subjugating others. A crushing, unfamiliar helplessness began to replace Richard's pride. He was trapped in a silent maze of his own making, and the woman who held the key wasn't even looking at him anymore.